When I was working at the doctor's clinic, a patient taught me a life lesson that I will never forget. And it wasn't a big thing they did. In fact, it was very small that most people would have just neglected it. They would have just thought, oh, it's just a regular occurrence, just something annoying, it doesn't matter. I don't think I can take anything away from this. But that's where they miss out on the value. So I want to share with you the story and what I've been able to take away from it because it's definitely changed my life in a lot of different ways. So when I was working at the GP, I was basically shadowing the doctor. So the doctor would talk to the patient like in front of me, and I would just kind of like sit and lurk in the back of the room, just taking notes and just observing how the doctor interacts with the patient. And so before the next patient got in, the doctor told me something interesting, which is that a patient that they've been seeing is asking for almost unrealistic demands. And what they said was they want to give the doctor homework. They want to give the doctor an article to read beforehand. And once the doctor has read over the article and has done his homework and has familiarized himself with like the research or whatever article he wants to send, then the patient will book their appointment. And this was quite interesting because usually, patients just rock up to the GP, say what's going wrong, and that's it. But this patient was being very proactive. They were like doing research, coming out with all these research articles about the medication that they're taking, and then proposing all these solutions to the doctor. But in order to do that, they gave the doctor like homework to do beforehand, before the appointment. And the GP just looked at me like, yeah. I could tell that he wasn't amused. He was kind of annoyed at it, but he kind of like went along with it as well. So the reason I want to share this story with you is not to, pester your doctors and ask them for unrealistic demands. Because you could argue in this case, yeah, it's technically crossing a professional boundary. Does a GP have an obligation to read the article? Probably not. They can just discuss it during their appointed time. But the reason I want to share this is because the patient, from my perspective, at least demonstrated a sense of ownership and proactivity that is so lacking in a lot of people's lives, and especially mine, like for the longest time. And what I'm not saying is to do this with your GPs, but I'm saying the broader point, which is oftentimes in life, there's going to be no expectation. There's no one going to tell you that you have to do this or you have to do that. Instead, you have to decide what you want to do on your own terms. Now, sometimes that is within boundaries and sometimes that's good. Other times it may be crossing the boundaries like this one. It's probably not the most convenient for the GP, and it's not like fair for other patients if all the doctors spending their time on, a patient's homework. But again, it's the sentiment that I'm trying to convey here. The idea of trying to take ownership over your life, your decisions, and your outcomes by being proactive and by making sure that you are doing everything in your control to make the opportunities as good as possible for yourself is something that's worth striving for. So for me personally, I'm taking a gap year from medicine. And the thing I've realized is that when I'm not in uni, there's no one telling me what to do. There's no one setting me assignments that I have to do this by this deadline. Instead, a lot of the goals I want to achieve, I have to be like the boss or the teacher that's setting my own homework. And that's hard. You have to be proactive and you have to take ownership on a lot of things, and you have to push and chase things from different people in order to make your fantasy a reality. And so taking this gap year, I'm now working at a startup, and even getting this startup work experience was a bit of a journey. I had to reach out to friends in my network, and eventually I did some work for this small YouTuber who then introduced me to this startup who has a much larger YouTube channel, and that like play button there is actually from their channel. So it's been like a great experience working at the startup. It's completely changed my perspective on a lot of things, and it's made me just appreciate how to be a world-class professional in a particular area of craft. So the guy I work with, his name is Justin. His YouTube channel is pretty big, and right now I'm being mentored by him, and just learning a lot about what it takes to become an expert, because he's like one of the world leading experts in learning. And so I'm basically getting front row seats to seeing how an expert learns thinks and operates as a professional. And the thing is, I would never have gotten this opportunity if I wasn't proactive, if I didn't reach out to smaller YouTubers within my network to get that experience and then to be proactive again and try and reach out for these large opportunities. I remember in order to get my work at the startup, I volunteered at a bunch of events. I volunteered at this, so one day they had this live event, this workshop, and I volunteered like for free to help film for the whole day, which was quite, exhausting. But I did it to build a relationship with the founders. And then from there, I was able to secure like the work experience. And now I'm working at the startup. So again, I know this started from a story of a patient asking a doctor to read the article before their appointment, but just this very small thing made me realize that if you want to go far in life, you have to be able to take life by the reins and pull it in the direction that you want. And oftentimes that means testing the boundaries, because ultimately you are the one that's in control. And so, obviously, under respectful circumstances, you want to be the patient who's giving the doctor homework, as opposed to the doctor giving the patient homework, if that makes sense. So yeah, hope that was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.